Glass effects are always popular. Let's see how we can create this type of glass text effect. I'll move to my beginning file, and you can see that my type is filled with a very light blue color. I'm now going to apply to this 3 layer effects: a drop shadow, an inner shadow, and a bevel and emboss. I'll start by coming to the FX drop down and choosing Show All Effects. So let's start with the drop shadow. And this is just going to be a fairly straightforward drop shadow. I'll use black as the shadow color, an opacity of 35. I'm going to change the angle to 145. And now let me just pull that away from the type to position it by eye. But the actual size and distance that I want to end up with, just so that I can replicate what you saw in the finished version, is 29 pixels for the distance, 0 for the spread, and 29 for the size. Then we want an inner shadow, and the inner shadow is also going to use a blending mode of multiply. I need to increase the opacity on that. The angle can remain as it is. I need to increase the distance to 56 pixels, and then to diffuse that I'm going to increase the size way up to 120 pixels. And then the effect that is going to give us the most bang for the buck, the bevel and emboss. So we want an inner bevel, smooth. I need to increase the depth to 168. I'm going to increase the size to 16, and then I'm going to soften that by 3 pixels just to round out the bumps on the type. And here I need to turn off global light. The angle 129 and the altitude 21. For more intense highlights and shadows, I'm going to switch the blending modes here to respectively linear dodge for the highlight and linear burn for the shadows. And now the linear dodge, the highlight, that's going to come way up. Let's go all the way up to 95%. And for the shadow, well, that's going to come way down. Let's take that down to 15%. And then to really give it a glossy sheen, I'm going to change the gloss contour. And the gloss contour that I want is cone inverted. And whenever I use one of these, I always use it in combination with the anti-aliased option. In addition to that, I'm also going to use the contour option, and I really want to amp it up here. So I'm going to change the contour here to a ring, and then I'll turn on anti-aliased just to smooth out any jaggies, and I'm going to increase the range from 50 to 100%. So we now have this glassy appearance to our type, but as you can see, it's not actually transparent. Well, here's the trick. What we're going to do is copy that background layer, the image layer, and then put that above the type, and then clip it to the type. Option or Alt and click on the line between those 2 layers. And we can now see the image through the glass type. One other thing we might want to do, and that's give the impression of the image being distorted where the glass is overlapping it, or where we have the impression of the glass overlapping it. So I'm going to convert that layer to a smart object, then come to Filter and Liquify. What I want to do here is use my bloat tool, and I'm going to increase the brush size of my bloat up to 400, and that's going to be big enough to cover a letter at a time. Let's turn on advanced mode because I do need to see my backdrop so I can see where the type is. So now what I'm going to do is just go over the letters and create some distortion. We're actually seeing the whole of the top layer, but by the time we get out of here, we're only going to see the portion that is clipped to the type. And that's the effect that we get. This effect achieved using a combination of layer effects and clipping a copy of the image to the type.